This show is supported by Odoo. When you buy business software from lots of vendors, the costs add up and it gets complicated and confusing. Odoo solves this. It's a single company that sells a suite of enterprise apps that handles everything from accounting to inventory to sales. Odoo is all connected on a single platform in a simple and affordable way. You can save money without missing out on the features you need. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.
For Johnny Snell, age 15 of Hagerstown, Maryland, days begin early during the school year.
You remember those old black and white promotional films?
They begin with an early morning exercise that has become a tradition for American boys.
This one shows a boy, Johnny Snell, riding a bike and tossing newspapers on porches. I delivered newspapers too, the Charleston Gazette, back in the 1970s. It was fun, and I earned some spending money.
The exercise serves many purposes. It develops muscles in the body, and it develops healthy attitudes of mind.
Newspapers are still delivered in America, but not usually by a kid on a bike, and frankly, not that much anymore. Since 2005, America has lost 1/3 of its newspapers. The newspaper industry has evaporated, and all forms of American journalism are in trouble. That's not just bad for journalists. It's potentially a threat to democracy. From West Virginia Public Broadcasting and PRX, this is Us and Them. I'm Trey Kay. Today, we examine the health of journalism in West Virginia. We're going to do that in a few ways. We'll visit with a father-daughter team of a family-owned newspaper in Putnam County. We'll meet a pastor who started his own news website. And we'll talk to a veteran TV reporter. But first, let's get a little perspective on things from a former reporter and newspaper editor who is now in academia.
My name is Tim Franklin. I'm the Senior Associate Dean at the Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern University, and I also direct the Medill Local News Initiative.
During his career, Tim Franklin worked as the top editor at a lot of big papers: the Indianapolis Star, the Orlando Sentinel, and the Baltimore Sun. He started his career in Chicago as a reporter at the Tribune. Now he's in charge of a project that takes the temperature of local journalism in America. The Local News Initiative at Northwestern University is a big idea dedicated to a big problem. When local news dies, Franklin says we've learned what happens.
The civic participation declines. So turnout in local elections goes down. The number of candidates running for local office goes down. In some cases, government spending rises. And government borrowing costs also go up. This is according to a study done by Notre Dame and the University of Illinois Chicago, because the bond rating agencies look at the fact that there's no watchdog, there's no journalist in that community covering government officials. And so the fear is the government spending is just going to rise further.
Every year, Northwestern researchers add up the number of newspapers, television stations, radio stations, podcasts, and online startups dedicated to covering what's happening in cities and towns across America. And then they map it. Their big interactive map of the U.S. drills down into every county in the country. It identifies places with a healthy, vigorous news climate and the places that are struggling. It's not a pretty picture.
We're losing on average about 2.5 newspapers in the United States every week.
Naturally, when I talked to Tim Franklin about this, I asked him about my home state.
West Virginia right now has a problem, a pretty serious problem.
I suspected that might be the case. but I didn't know for sure.
There are two news desert counties in West Virginia, McDowell and Wyoming.
News deserts are places that are thirsty for local news. The Local News Initiative reports that in 2024, there were 204 U.S. counties with no local news source, and more than 1,500 counties with just one place to get local news. Franklin says news deserts have specific characteristics.
They're overwhelmingly rural. The other thing we see about news deserts is that, like much of the rest of society, news deserts tend to be older than average. They tend to be poorer. There tends to be less educational attainment in those areas. So in some ways, these are counties that need local news the most.
In 2024, we reported on West Virginia's news desert counties, McDowell and Wyoming. The episode featured Missy Nestor. She bought the Welch News and tried to save it.
We were coming with dreams. We want to cover this thing. We want to be creative. We did a little magazine. We took us online. We had dreams of where we wanted to take our community, and we were afraid that someone else would buy it.
Despite her best efforts, the Welch News closed up shop. Tim Franklin says a lot of other places in West Virginia are in danger of following the same path.
There are 43 counties that are down to one local news source.
Keep in mind, there are 55 counties in West Virginia. Add it up, and here's what it looks like.
So basically 82% of all West Virginia counties are either news deserts or have limited access to local news. And West Virginia ranks fourth in the nation in the percentage of counties with limited access to local news. So the only states that are in a worse situation are Idaho, Georgia, and Mississippi.
When it comes to the healthiness of local news, West Virginia ranks 46th in the nation. That's important for democracy because, like Tim Franklin noted earlier, something or someone needs to keep an eye on government. How are elected leaders spending money? What's the plan when there's a call to raise or lower taxes? Without a reporter in the room, voters might not know. And there's something else that's lost too, something that's probably just as important, but really hard to measure. Local news coverage gives a community and a region the ability to see and define itself. When public information is shared through a newspaper, broadcaster, or on social media about local activities, efforts, organizations, and businesses, it provides a sense of what's important. In turn, those priorities drive a narrative that can help maintain a vibrant population. Tim Franklin says it's all connected.
I think local news organizations are the glue that binds together a community. It's where people in a community go to see themselves and go to see their community and the people who live there. And so when you lose that original local news reporting and coverage, I think it contributes to this disconnectedness.
One paper that's trying to be that glue for the community is a weekly publication called The Hurricane Breeze. Hurricane is a small city of about 7,000, just off I-64 between Huntington and Charleston. It's a little bit rural here and a little bit suburban. The first time I try to meet up with the owners of The Breeze, it's on a Tuesday. I don't have an appointment, and I just figure I'll stop by and say hi. A sign off of Hurricane Creek Road reads, Hurricane Breeze, serving all of Putnam County since 1900. I know I'm in the right place, so I turn onto a dirt driveway and park. A man emerges from a handsome white house and explains the Breeze offices are in a smaller house in the back.
This building here?
Yeah, just walk down that sidewalk, beat on the door, and
Thank you.
As I walk in that direction, there are cows and chickens. And then I see Ron Allen, owner and publisher of The Breeze.
Hi there.
and he says it's a bad day to talk.
I'm Trey Kay.
You see, the paper gets delivered on Thursdays. Today is Tuesday, and it's crunch time.
Our deadline is like 2 o'clock.
I know a thing or two about deadlines.
Would it be better for me to come back another time?
Yes.
So I make an appointment and stop by on a less hectic day. On my next visit, as I make my way up the drive to the house at the back of the lot, I take time to record the hens and roosters.
I'm Ron Allen. I publish the Hurricane Breeze.
I'm Betsy Allen, and I do my part of the newspaper. I go out and do stories and interview people.
This father-daughter team is at the heart of the Hurricane Breeze, and Betsy says it's been going on for a while.
Pretty much my entire life. I would say I started as a late teenager. I started out doing some of the pages, like the layouts and putting the text and images on the pages. Then when I was probably maybe 18 to early 20s, I started interviewing people.
Betsy says the Breeze has a clear mission.
Our focus is pretty much primarily on Putnam County and the different communities. Hurricane is the largest community located in Taze Valley.
And just to people who are not from this area, the name of your publication is the Hurricane Breeze. Now, for folks who are not around here, they would say that word and they would say hurricane, right? But the folks around here, how do they pronounce it?
We pronounce it hurricane.
Before we get too deep into the workings of the Breeze, I ask Betsy to show me around.
This is our considered the living room, but we actually don't live in it, too much living in it. This is more like when people come to the house and sort of like our just entryway kind of situation. I work and eat in the next room, and my dad works and eats in his own room in another part of the house.
In a way, I'm here in the home and the offices of the Hurricane Breeze. Is that right?
Yes, it is both our home as well as the office.
So every week, Ron researches and writes his section of the paper, mostly from home. Betsy heads out to talk to people.
I tend to do more personal interviews with people than Ron does.
And do you edit each other or?
Oh, there's not time. Oh.
Subscribing to the online edition of The Breeze costs $2.50 a month. Working at The Breeze is very much a family affair.
The last person outside of the family that was employed was, I believe, in the early 1950s.
Throughout my lifetime, we've had 2 typists, and they actually type part-time, so they're not full-time employees.
And I don't see big printing press machines and stuff like that. That doesn't happen here.
It has been a good 50 years since the Breeze printed its own paper.
There's still a print version of The Breeze. Subscriptions cost $22 a year if you live in Hurricane, $27 a year if you live elsewhere in Putnam County, and $45 a year if you live elsewhere in West Virginia. The recent issue is a 10-page broadsheet with a variety of local stories. One is about an ATV fundraiser. Another highlights a car factory expansion.
Toyota announces its investment in Buffalo. Well, Buffalo is Putnam County. Buffalo is our subscribers.
Ron says that sense of connectedness is really important.
One of the reasons they want to buy is that it's a picture of themselves.
The region's population is on the rise. 15 years ago, 55,000 lived in Putnam County. Now about 57,000 people call it home. That growth hasn't affected The Breeze much. Subscriptions and advertising cover the costs of production, but aren't enough to hire anyone else. So it's up to Ron and Betsy to put out The Breeze each week.
I haven't had a week off for 40 years.
And Ron is well past what most people would consider the usual retirement age.
I'm 82, going on 83, and I don't believe that there's anyone that's going to step in and do what I continue to do.
I'd definitely like to see the family legacy continue. I mean, the paper has been part of my family since 1913, but there is too much work for one person to do. And actually, as it is, there's too much work for two people to do, but we make it happen.
The question for the Hurricane Breeze is, how much longer can the Allens make it happen? Coming up, we'll talk to journalist Randy Yohe. The former television reporter has watched news coverage evolve for decades in southwestern West Virginia.
I like the feel of a newspaper. I like to touch it and hold it and look at the different sections. Go to the sports section, the life section, the news section. You don't find that anymore.
That's after a break. You're listening to Us and Them. This program is supported in part with a grant from the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation.
In difficult times, music gives us peace, brings us together, and helps heal us. It calms our nerves and brightens our days. That's why we're bringing you classic episodes of Mountain Stage on air and in our podcast. This is Larry Gross, host of Mountain Stage. Find something that's familiar or brand new and feel the power of live music on our website, mountainstage.org.
Hey, it's Trey, and this is Us and Them from PRX and West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
WSAZ News Channel 3, 6 o'clock.
People are getting ready for the president's visit. Some get tickets, others plan to protest. Good evening, I'm Samantha Cozy in Charleston.
And I'm Timmy Aaron Huntington. Our nation's leader will be in Charleston tomorrow night.
Can't talk about local news in southwestern West Virginia without talking about WSAZ.
Randy Yohe. I'm a Marshall Huntington Bureau Chief for West Virginia Public Broadcasting and an adjunct professor of broadcast journalism at Marshall University.
But before becoming my colleague at West Virginia Public Broadcasting a few years ago, Yohe was a frequent and lively presence on News Channel 3. He did all kinds of stories about road safety.
900 men, women, and children die needlessly in work zone crashes every year. 120 of them are the construction workers themselves.
And lighter stories, like this one.
You gotta love mules. They're sure-footed animals. They're really smart. They're strong and hard workers. And what about that old adage, stubborn as a mule? Is that a fact?
Yohe worked at WSAZ for 24 years. He was so popular, the singer Billy Ray Cyrus, famous for Achy Breaky Heart and the father of Miley Cyrus, name-checked him on TV.
I think I asked him for his autograph the first time I met Randy because I watched the news a lot. And I thought, man, Randy Yohe, he's a star.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Sager.
And I'm Susan Nicholas. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Local news is important because it talks about what's happening in your community, in your backyard. If you're commuting from Huntington to Charleston, what's going on I-64 that's going to bog you down or hold you up, besides construction and accidents.
News Channel 3 has a long reach. It's not just seen in West Virginia. People in Kentucky and Ohio watch it too.
There's a widespread of counties that WSAZ signal goes to. So it's much of western West Virginia, about 10 counties in southern Ohio, and about 10 counties in eastern Kentucky. And so I was the reporter that would often go to the ends of the earth, if you will, because I could get the story and get back quick for the 4, 5, and 6 o'clock news.
Yoey grew up in Michigan. He's been a news junkie pretty much his whole life.
You know, I grew up with newspapers. I grew up in Detroit, and my father and I would read the Detroit Free Press from starting when I was 7 years old. So I like the feel of a newspaper. I like to touch it and hold it and look at the different sections. Go to the sports section, the life section, the news section.
In 2008, Yoey's beloved Free Press trimmed home delivery to just 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. Of course, the Free Press isn't alone. Lots of newspapers are cutting back, even shutting down. In West Virginia, the Charleston Gazette-Mail isn't delivered 7 days a week anymore either. And the Huntington paper?
The Herald-Dispatch, which was a nice, strong paper when I came to Huntington, seems no more than an ingratiated flyer.
A flyer, as in a flimsy publication without depth. In short, Yoey says the local news scene here is less vibrant.
10 times stronger when I came. Yeah, oh yes, no doubt about it. Throughout our whole region, I know you guys have done a story about the paper down in Welch that folded, and that was a prime example, I think.
Yoey says TV news coverage has picked up some of the slack.
WSAZ, WCHS, and WOWK do a pretty darn good job of covering Putnam County overall. If something happens there, they'll not only mention it, they'll send live trucks and reporters.
Online startups are also trying to make a difference. Yoey is a big fan of West Virginia Watch. The Watch is part of the nonprofit journalism startup called States Newsroom, dedicated to shining a light on policy and politics in all 50 states.
They unearth problems and expose government officials for exactly what they are or aren't.
Yoey also keeps an eye on another local journalism startup, The Real West Virginia. Its founder, Stephen Baldwin, is a former member of the House of Delegates.
He aligns himself with stories like the West Virginia Watch that delves deep into issues that affect people, health care, child care, wrongdoing. It roots out problems and reports on them with, others would say a bias. I say more of an unbiased.
Stephen Baldwin. I'm pastor at Ronsford Presbyterian Church and Clifton Presbyterian Church, and then I'm also the publisher of The Real West Virginia.
Oh, good morning. How you doing?
How you doing, Trey?
I'm good.
A little wet.
Yeah, it's a little wet, but it's all good.
How was the trip down?
I definitely wanted to meet with Stephen Baldwin to talk about his journalism startup, but we needed to get something sorted out first.
One of my favorite things when I'm driving through this area with somebody who's not from West Virginia, and we look at the sign on I-64 as to what the name of this town is. How do you pronounce it?
Yeah, we get all sorts of things. Roncrevet, Ronceverte, but we just say Roncevert. So it's French for Greenbrier, but we don't say it as if it was French. It's a redneck version. Roncevert.
Are you from here?
Yeah, I'm originally from the Greenbrier Valley.
Baldwin has been pastor here for 18 years. On Sundays at 9 a.m., he leads services at Clifton Presbyterian Church. Then he returns to Roncevert in time to preside over the 11 a.m. service. Voters in Greenbrier County and some nearby counties elected Baldwin, a Democrat, to the West Virginia House of Delegates in 2016 and the state Senate in 2018. Then in 2022, a retired state trooper challenged him as the Republican candidate and won big, capturing 59% of the vote. Soon, Baldwin discovered he had a lot of time on his hands.
Being a state senator representing 100,000 people, in addition to having church ministry, is a couple of full-time jobs. And so all of a sudden, I only had one full-time job. And I'm used to doing a lot more than that.
So Baldwin started the online news website, Real West Virginia, in 2023. He paid for startup costs of a few $1,000s out of his own pocket. He hasn't taken a paycheck yet. His pastoral jobs cover his bills.
The thing that I liked most about public service was telling stories, sharing West Virginia's story, making sure folks knew what was going on, because I was representing 6 counties, 100,000 people, and every day I was traveling those 6 counties. And so many people didn't know what was going on one mountain over.
Baldwin says his news site isn't liberal or conservative.
Somebody can read an article and, one time they might think, oh, well, this is from a Democratic perspective, or another time they're going to say, oh, this is from a Republican perspective, and another time they're not going to be sure. We like that because we think that's authentic to West Virginians. We've had this shift towards Republican politics away from Democratic politics, but West Virginians have always been pretty partisan one way or another. We don't think that's necessarily representative, though, of the way West Virginians operate. So we would like to operate as an outlet that folks aren't sure from day to day, article to article, what the perspective is.
Generally speaking, what do you believe to be the current state of journalism in America?
Oh, can I sigh? I mean, it's difficult. Journalism has become a punching bag for so many folks, and I mean that's what the root of my sigh is, not the state of the work that's being done.
Until he started the Real West Virginia, Baldwin had never worked as a journalist. So when he started his news site, he reached out to local journalist Matthew Young to serve as editor. He's sympathetic to the challenges the profession faces.
Journalists don't have it easy. They're just trying to tell stories and trying to give every side of a story, but they're not paid.
By that, he means they're not paid well. All of this raises my curiosity. Here's this pastor and former Democratic lawmaker who becomes an entrepreneur with a startup online news website. What's the goal? You've titled your publication The Real West Virginia. What do you mean by that? I mean, what is the real?
Well, it's not really up for us to decide. It's up for our readers and the stories we tell to decide. The sense was we want to see what's going on behind the scenes, but beyond the headlines to the heart of Appalachian identity. Because, just in my travels, and I imagine this is the same for you in your travels, like you meet these terrific people who are doing such important work every day. Nobody seems to know much about it. They're never going to get a pat on the back. They're never going to make a headline. And yet they show up every day. And that person is the heart of their community. And when something happens to that person, if they don't have employment, they have to move somewhere else, or, they're elderly and they die, that community suffers.
Baldwin says he wants his website, The Real West Virginia, to help communities tell their stories, because it's the people who define a region. Coverage that goes behind headlines and stereotypes can give a region the power to control how others see it. Baldwin says that's what happened in Pocahontas County when the high school band director quit. The next year, the tiny band kept playing on its own, without a leader. Baldwin wrote about it, and soon the Washington Post and Good Morning America were doing stories.
They may be few, but they're mighty at Pocahontas High.
Let's go Warriors! Ready, go!
After their former band teacher took a job at another school, and with no candidates in sight, Principal Joe Riley gave the option: take another class or rock on.
Let's go Warriors!
Wow, what amazing kids they are. And they were carrying on without a band instructor. They had one of the students acting in that capacity, and then another faculty member being their advisor.
1, 2, ready, go!
After electing
and the next year, they got a band instructor.
On its website, The Real West Virginia says it reaches beyond the headlines to touch the heart of Appalachian identity. The story about the high school band sure fits that goal. But Baldwin says he wants the site to honestly cover news of all kinds.
I think culture is sort of our niche. That's something that we do that others don't do. But we do investigative as well, and that's principally me. So, we've broken several stories that others then have picked up on, including, potential sale of the Greenbrier, hiring of a police officer that was involved in the Trayvon Martin case by a local department in West Virginia. So, we've done plenty of that has had a monumental reach, but we just don't do that every day.
So you haven't really ceded the space to Mountain State Spotlight or to the Gazette or anybody else, and you're not just a cultural publication. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I think we far outpunched our weight with 3 people. The couple investigative pieces we've done, I think they've had a much broader reach than folks who are doing it regularly or even, all the time. I would put our couple up against their yearly output.
The Real West Virginia's mix of investigative, uplifting, and folksy stories seems to resonate with people.
When we started this, we didn't have any idea what to expect. I think we reached 10 million people in the first year. It absolutely exploded. There's not a day that goes by that somebody in the Greenbrier Valley, which is really our home base, doesn't say, well, the Real West Virginia is where I go to get my news.
Baldwin says the website now averages about 40,000 page views per week and another 1 million impressions on social media every month.
So as you and I are talking right now, we are in the southern part of West Virginia, and I know that you want to focus on the capital city, but is your publication, The Real West Virginia, focused on all of West Virginia or just this particular part of the state? What is the scope?
As much of the state as we can. So we've got folks, I'm here in the Greenbrier Valley, our associate editors in Beckley, our editors in Charleston. We'd love to have a writer in every county. We'd love to have a writer in every region, but we've got to be able to pay them. In order to be able to pay them, we have to be resourced. We've been in existence a little over 2 years now and have been able to pay a couple of folks, but it's not like there's a lot of money out there.
You say that you don't pay yourself or that it's treated as a hobby. Would you like to change that?
Well, yeah, I put in a lot of work, and it'd be nice to be able to, receive a little bit of compensation support for that at some point. But that's not the reason I do this.
Like a lot of entrepreneurs, Baldwin figures hard work will make up for the lack of money, which is why, after he tucks his 8-year-old son into bed,
I eat chocolate chip cookies every single night. I make chocolate chip cookies, and so I'm eating my chocolate chips as I'm inputting those stories.
I don't know, all the news that's fit to munch? For now, Baldwin says he has 2 short-term goals for the startup: to hire an administrator for help with billing and fundraising, and adding a reporter to cover northern West Virginia. As we were wrapping up this episode, we got the news the Corporation for Public Broadcasting will shut down on October the 1st. Congress passed the Rescissions Act of 2025, which clawed back $1.1 billion in funding for the CPB. President Trump signed the bill into law, and just like that, the future of public broadcasting is uncertain. Here in West Virginia, CPB funding has helped keep the lights on, literally, for local journalists. It's helped sustain West Virginia public broadcasting and has supported this Us and Them show. It's also helped small community radio stations, many outside of the NPR network, keep people connected. Thomas Jefferson said, "This democratic experiment of ours depends on an informed electorate." But what happens when the people doing the informing go out of business? If we believe in democracy, then local journalism can't just be a hobby. It has to be something we're all willing to fight for. You've been listening to Us and Them, Our team for this show was me, Trey Kay. Todd Melby reported and produced this episode. Kate Smith edited the episode. Matthew Hancock mastered the audio. Michael Lipton, Tristan Lozow, and Ahmed Solomon wrote and performed the Us and Them show music. Mark Lerner designed our logo. The marvelous people at PRX and West Virginia Public Broadcasting make Us and Them possible. So do grants from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the CRC Foundation, and the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation. Hey, we'd love to hear your thoughts about this episode. Would you share them with us on our Facebook page? Or if you can brave Twitter, X is what we call it now, tweet to us at UsThemPodcast. Us and Them was originally developed with assistance from the mentorship program at AIR, the Association of Independents in Radio. See you next time on Us and Them.
Support for this podcast comes from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.